Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unravel one of the absolute most fascinating mysteries of the natural world. Think about this for a second. A leopard could literally end your life before you even finished explaining to it that humans are the dominant species on Earth. I mean, let's be real, we have zero natural armor. Our skin tears incredibly easily. Our teeth? Thoroughly unimpressive. And you absolutely cannot outrun a horse, overpower a bear, or survive being stepped on by an elephant. On paper, you look incredibly weak. And yet, a deer can just catch a glimpse of your silhouette and immediately bolt. Wolves will often vanish like ghosts into the forest before hikers even know they were there. So we're presented with this massive biological paradox, our extreme physical vulnerability compared to how wild animals actually react when we show up.
Okay, let's dive into this. When a massive apex predator looks at you, a soft, slow, clawless primate, do they see weakness? Well, the truth is that usually isn't even the question their brains are asking. You see, we tend to view nature through our own human definitions of weakness, things like low muscle mass or small size. But wild animals aren't judging you based on abstract concepts, and they certainly aren't out there looking to prove a point to you.
And our common sense totally validates this fear, right? Human physical stats are, frankly, pretty pathetic when stacked against apex predators. A tiger's weapons are literally attached to its body. A buffalo has horns that can easily gore a lion. Predators have razor-sharp teeth, incredible speed, armored hides, the whole shebang. If nature operated purely on a one-to-one physical matchup, we would just be an easy, everyday meal.
But here is the secret. Animals do not use a universal strength chart. They aren't looking at some imaginary spreadsheet of physical stats, noticing that your bench press is disappointing, and then deciding whether or not to respect you. For a wild animal, predation is inherently incredibly risky. A lion attacking a buffalo can be fatally gored. A leopard trying to snatch the wrong baboon might suddenly find itself facing several highly motivated, very angry baboons in return. A single broken tooth or a damaged eye can literally prevent a predator from ever feeding again. So they aren't evaluating your sheer strength. They are making a highly complex, split-second risk calculation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact, continuous variables a predator is recalculating during any encounter. A wild animal is constantly reading an array of dynamic signals. What are you doing? Have you noticed me? Can you reach me? They're combining your body size, your movement, your approach speed, and where you're looking. And they don't just calculate this once and move on. You are being recalculated continuously. If you're just walking sideways along a distant trail, a deer might tolerate you. But if you turn directly toward it, the risk changes. If you speed up, it changes again. If you lock eyes with it and step off the path, well, the animal doesn't need to know your actual intentions. You've just tripped their internal alarm system.
When we look at the world through the sensory inputs of a predator, physical posture changes absolutely everything. If you crouch down, you look smaller. If you run, your movement physically kicks off the geometry of pursuit. To a predator's brain, a running human looks exactly like catchable prey. Conversely, humans are unusually tall relative to our mass simply because we stand vertically on two legs. When you stand upright and face an animal, you present this narrow but highly elevated outline. But more importantly than that, you look informed. You are signaling directly to them, "Hey, I see you."
And this isn't just theory. This directly shapes official wildlife protocols. Take surviving a mountain lion encounter, for example. The rules center entirely around ruining an ambush predator's advantage. Mountain lions rely on surprise. When you remain upright, maintain visual contact and group together with others, a huge part of that cat's advantage totally disappears. Now, you haven't magically grown stronger in that split second, but for the cat, the attack has suddenly become much less clean. And predators care deeply about that distinction because a messy attack means a really high risk of injury.
But here's the thing. The physical body is only the beginning of what animals encounter with us. Unlike a tiger whose claws are just permanently stuck to its paws, human danger is incredibly deceptive. We carry objects. A stick in a deer's mouth is, well, just a stick. But a stick in a human hand, that can strike, block, or become a high-speed projectile. Our hands make distance completely unreliable. Stones leave our hands at high speeds. Fire travels with us. Vehicles arrive with us. The animal sees our soft skin, sure, but it cannot see the invisible supply chain of danger that might be folded up inside a pocket or waiting just a few kilometers down the road.
To truly understand how deeply this hidden danger has shaped the natural world, we've got to look at the data. Researchers conducted a massive ecological study in South Africa's Greater Kruger region. And I really want to emphasize the sheer scale here. Over 4,000 independent trials involving tons of different mammal species. They set up speakers near watering holes to test exactly what animals fear the most in the wild today.
The results? Absolutely staggering. When researchers played ordinary human conversation, we're talking just regular people chatting, no shouting, no gunfire, mammals abandoned those waterholes significantly faster and way more frequently than when they heard the sounds of lions. Rhinos, elephants, leopards, hyenas, animals that could easily crush an unarmed person literally fled from the sound of our everyday voices. This proves that fear of humans is heavily learned, socially transmitted, and passed down across generations.
So why is that fear so deeply ingrained? It all comes down to our legacy as the super predator. We don't just hunt, we have hunted with extraordinary efficiency for thousands and thousands of years. We selectively remove the prime adult prey that natural predators would normally avoid. But our most formidable trait, organized retaliation. If a predator kills a human or our livestock, humans return with traps, guns, and groups of friends. A physically weak animal becomes an ecologically unstoppable force when it arrives with institutions and a historical pattern of revenge.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens when that historical pattern is missing. There are exceptions to this fear, and ecologists call it prey naivete. Think of those isolated island animals that evolved totally without terrestrial predators. When the first human visitors arrived on those shores, we didn't look powerful. To the animals, humans just looked like weird, unfamiliar bipeds. Because the animals had zero evolutionary memory of our danger, they didn't flee. And unfortunately, that allowed them to be hunted efficiently until natural selection or social learning finally forced a stronger avoidance response.
Another really dangerous exception happens right in our own backyards. Habituation happens when animals realize ordinary human noises don't actually result in consequences. But there's a related phenomenon called food conditioning that is so much more dangerous. When we leave unsecured garbage out at a campsite, a bear or a wolf begins to associate human scent, not with a warning, but with a highly rewarded opportunity. The animal becomes bolder. It hasn't realized we're weak. It has just realized we're a reliable source of easy calories, and that completely overrides their natural avoidance instinct.
So, if they naturally fear us, why do attacks still happen? Well, the context for these encounters are incredibly different. Take herbivores, for example. A defensive moose or an elephant isn't trying to eat you, and they certainly aren't trying to prove they are stronger than you. If you get too close to their young or their personal space, they will simply use the massive bodies nature gave them to remove you from the equation. Carnivores, on the other hand, usually attack due to surprise, injury, or extreme vulnerability, like a person running alone. And aquatic attacks, those often stem from mere confusion or investigation.
And speaking of the aquatic environment, water completely edits the human signal. On land, you are a tall, upright, loud primate. You look like trouble. But the second you jump into the water, you become horizontal. You're suddenly slow, uncoordinated, and acoustically unfamiliar. To an ambush predator like a crocodile or a shark, you no longer look like a dangerous human with a complex supply chain. You just resemble a horizontal, flailing mammal with very poor situational awareness. You lose basically all the visual cues that normally protect you on land.
So, what does this all mean? The absolutely crucial takeaway of this entire explainer boils down to this. The visible human is soft, but the invisible human is enormous. A wild animal might see the weakness in your physical body, sure, but they also see the massive, invisible history of danger attached to your category. We've arranged consequences around being approached on a civilizational scale. One human alone looks fragile, but humanity does not.
A bear can easily overpower you. A lion can outrun you in a heartbeat. But they still overwhelmingly choose distance. Because evolution doesn't reward winning just one fight, it rewards surviving what comes after. The next time you step into the woods and marvel at how quiet and peaceful it is, remember, to you, the forest looks empty. But to the forest, your appointment was noted. So how will you view your place in the wild now? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this completely changes the way you look at the natural world.